Hi everybody, I'm Jennifer McCray, known as J Shrink, and I'm going to talk about something very serious uh, and very personal. I told you when I did my last covert narcissist video that I was going to talk about suicide. Okay, uh, I want to keep depressed or oppressed people from going there, from even just idolizing or thinking about suicide when they're down and out, and that there are alternatives in the world and we can go on. And I had a real bad battle recently with a alleged covert um, landlord who is under investigation right now from HUD. And I told y'all the narcissistic tactics. And I remember one, she keeps saying, oh, well, we signed an agreement to inspect your house once a month, every Wednesday. Every Wednesday of a month until you get it right, until it's just perfect and spotless. That didn't happen. You know what? That was another one of those exaggerated lies that they tell. What she mean is she wanted me to suffer. It was never going to. In that covert narcissist mind, there was no probationary period. There was no 6-month period. And then, if everything's perfect, right, every month something was wrong. And that's what tore me down. Every month something was wrong. She took great pleasure in always saying, "Oh, this is wrong. Do this next month." And she was gonna make it go indefinitely, and she was just gonna use all my narcissistic supply and agony and anxiety that I get, just making it indefinite, not giving a time period. And that's another thing I tell you about those black women that get off the street, or their friends who work here. I have been a manager. I've had employees. If I'm putting them on probation for something, you can bet it's gonna be 6 months. I'll say, well, Andy, you have to do X. I'm gonna check you every month for the next 6 months, from January to May. And then by May, if everything is satisfactory, you can be off probation. This heifer didn't do that. She did not have a timeline, and I got depressed, anxious, and see, people like that can make you depressed and bring you down. They really don't want. I mean, any manager in their right mind would give you a probationary period, but narcissists don't do that. They expect they're gonna find something. If you clean what they say this day, this month, next month, it's gonna be something else. Next month, it's gonna be something else. It's never, unless you are one of their favorites, and their favorites, and they have favorites around here. They're snitches. Mine have been cleaner than people who supposedly had cleaned my house for me when she was inspecting it. No matter who I paid to clean, I paid for it to be cleaned 3 times. She always found something. But she's got this snitch that goes into her office, a light-skinned woman, and she's just a snitch. Everybody knows it. And she brags about how well she cooks, but she's ignorant. I mean, But anyway, I mean, I know I digress, but I'm digressing for a point. But I mean, that's what they have maids for. That's what they have janitors for, to clean up. And if the person can't clean up, get somebody to help them. Keep trying to get somebody to help them. Try to work with them instead of just trying to just drag it on and getting enjoyment out of seeing the person all anxious and everything. So, and that's how my depression started. At this apartment. Okay. Now, I found this little thing's cute. It said, oh well, I suffer. It says, I suffer inside. Well, you can't really see it well. It says, I suffer. I'll just read it to you. Okay. It says, I suffer in silence. And it says, and it's got the little May, I want to remind you, is National Mental Health Month. And green, with this I suffer in silence. Green is our color, like pink is breast cancer people's color. Okay, so we're going to talk about just some little tidbits about suicide. 90% of suicides are caused by treatable and or temporary mental disorder. And most of the time, it's a person with a mood disorder, me being clinical depression or bipolar disorder. And we need to help break the stigma of mental health and suicide. One thing I don't like in black people, I'm focusing on black people for a reason, because they're very ignorant about certain things. Because I'm sure y'all saying, why is she talking about black people all the time? Black people's psychology has never really been studied. They'll throw it in there with the white, or they'll make some little comments. But I have noticed, I've been in the field 20 years. I work with tons of black people. And they are very ignorant about certain things. And suicide is one of them. Because, they have that slave mentality. That slave mentality. They'll say, ooh, you're so selfish. What did you think about your family members? I mean, you're depressed. You're isolated from your family members. I mean, what good is that going to do? And if that's not the worst, you get these darn slave mentality or religious fanatics judging you, telling you how God gave you life and you can't take away God's gift. So you're going to end up in hell. Now, my religion doesn't, my faith doesn't, but these black slave-like Protestant religions, that's the way they believe. And that makes the person, do you think that makes the person feel better when you're going to tell them, well, if you commit suicide, you're going to hell? That's against the Bible. Half of them don't even know what's in the Bible. And they have Bible study. Half of them I'm a Catholic. They think we use the King James Version Bible. I mean, they have the slightest idea. And it's very frustrating. And I know if you're a black person and you have clinical depression or bipolar, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that you're going to go to hell forever. God, He made different diseases. He made different people to treat and heal different diseases. God knows that you're depressed. He made you depressed. That's why He has mental health professionals to help you. Not ignorant, slave mentality, religious fanatics talking about you going to hell. They don't even know where they're going. So how they know they're going to hell? They may be ones going to hell, and you may be the one that's going to heaven, because people who are suicidal are very sensitive. And Jesus, what did Jesus preach? Sensitivity, right? Okay. So every 40 seconds, someone dies by suicide. Suicide is not caused by weakness or lack of courage, but rather having to be too strong for too long and trying to hold it in. You can hold it in only for so long. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about some facts about suicide. Nearly 30,000 Americans commit suicide every year. In the U.S., suicide rates are highest during the spring. And that's funny, because I have depression. My bipolar has the seasonal affected thing. I've had my suicidal ideations and attempts in the winter, because winter is dreary, cold, snowing. But most people I've talked to, they said the spring also. Suicide is the third leading cause of death for people who are 15 to 24 and 25 to 35. On the average, one person commits suicide every 16.2 minutes. Each suicide intimately affects 6 other people. And also, y'all, speaking of that, that's talking about the family and friends. Sometimes suicide of one, especially among teenagers, suicide, if one person commits suicide and they have their prevention, this and that, and talking about go see the grief counselor, or if somebody was shooting up the school, go see the counselor, because they may want to commit suicide because of they got PTSD from that. They usually have what's called a suicide contagion. That means that suicide is people. The movies romanticize suicide and makes it look like, like Romeo and Juliet. And I do have a video on here called the Romeo and Juliet. And they're two young black people, two young black couple. A young black couple, and they were the original Romeo and Juliet. It's on his Facebook. I'm not sure which video it's on, but it's on here when it talks about suicide. I forgot what I was going to say. I say too much. I always forget what I was going to say. Okay, the methods of suicide. Okay, the methods of suicide are, I'm going to go for females first, okay? Females is poisoning, okay? That's 33.4 females attempt suicide by poisoning. And 30.5 use to firearms. Women they use pills. They don't normally use firearms. But since firearms are so available, and we are having all these problems with these teenagers and shooting up schools and this and that, so firearms are very readily available. So women are now getting up to where the level of where men use firearms. So that's 30.5. And suffocation. Well, actually, suffocation could be anything from overdosing on pills and alcohol, to hanging, to what else? Suicide, hanging. Well, those are the only ones I can think of right now. But yeah, hanging and that's it. Mostly overdose by pills and or with alcohol, and that's So, like I said, sadly, women are catching up with the men, and 9.5 are use other. And I was one of the ones that use other. Other can be cutting your wrists, carbon monoxide. I guess carbon monoxide would be poisonous, so I take that back. But others usually cutting your wrist or jumping off a bridge or anything of that nature. Okay. Some people cut their wrist. Some people, I'm not going to say. Okay. Because it's too depressing. Okay. We're going to talk about medical and work loss costs of injury by intent in the United States. And this is from National Institute of Mental Health, 2013. Okay. Most of the 64% is caused by unintentional injury. I guess a car, or chemicals if you would work in a lab. 12% by homicide. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot something, y'all. I forgot to get the men. Okay, the men's suicide. Okay. So the men, they usually get their method of death by suicide. 55.6% is firearms. 10% is poisoning. That's female. 9.6% is suffocation, and we talked about that. And others, we talked about that. But men mostly shoot themselves or hang themselves. And other, just what I said, they really don't say, but the ones that I know of is, carbon monoxide, getting in a car, trying to die. And suicide by cop. I don't have, that ranks with other. There are a lot of people, a lot of men who have done certain things. They don't want to go, they're suicidal. They never told anyone. They don't go, they do something in order to get shot by the police. They'll have a weapon pointed at the police, do something where it's called suicide by cop. It's not the cop's fault this time, okay? Don't blame him. It's the person that's mentally ill. They're trying to, they have a gun or a knife or whatever pointed towards the police officers, and they have to shoot them. So that's a masculine thing. Very few women do that. And that's the one that I... Okay. Okay. I'm going to talk about... past year suicidal thoughts and behaviors among U.S. adults. And this is from the year 2016. Okay, so we have a big margin of 9.8 million adults had serious thoughts of committing suicide. Okay. And let's see, 2.8 million adults made plans. That means they actually wrote a note, or they got on the computer and they YouTube how to commit suicide. And also 1.3 million adults attempted suicide. I was one of them, but it wasn't. 1.0 million adults made plans and attempted suicide. 0.3 million adults made no suicidal plans and attempted suicide. Here's the and this is the I don't know if you can see it real good, but that's the stats. Okay, and this one is going to be very interesting to you. We're going to talk about frequently asked questions by people who don't understand depression and suicide, and who have preformed, we talked about those people, opinions about suicide. So we got, it's called frequently asked questions. And people ask these questions. 1, why do people kill themselves? You really don't know. They die, they commit suicide and die or attempt for various reasons. And we know but the majority of reason is depression and substance abuse. That's 90% of the reason people commit suicides. And let me see. Let's see. Yeah, we just talked about depression. Suicides also occur among schizophrenics, but most likely it's going to be somebody with mood disorder or PTSD. Okay. So that's basically why people kill themselves. And basically, they feel like I did with this woman. It's like, is my life just gonna be? You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You gotta do this. Do that. You do that. You won't have to do it no more. Do that. That's very subjective. There should be a written plan, like what I was telling you about. That shows poor management skills. There should be a written plan, not just a little. She'll have little childish form, and then she'll write little things on it. I mean, it should be a very, when you know somebody got in your apartment and they got here by being severely mentally ill, you don't play with those people like they do with others, because their brains function differently, and the chemicals in their brains function differently. And your behaviors can trigger people. So that's what got me. I mean, I've never worked for anybody who just where you do X, and when X is just perfect, you through. I've never had a boss suicide say that. Really, I've never been on a schedule before. This is the first time I ever been on, and I've been in 2 apartments. It's just that it just brought out of me the fact that I'm never good. Every time something. See this little bit? See these 2 gnats in this refrigerator? See that spot on the oven? See them toys on the floor where the dog been? I mean, and you spend the whole 2 days trying to make sure you left some dishes. I mean, you gotta live. You can't just sit in a perfect apartment and it's spotless all the time. You have to be comfortable. You don't need an apartment if you're going to do that. If that's all you're going to do is clean. And that's your whole purpose in life, to have a spotless apartment, which even her favorites don't have. But of course she's going to say, yes, she always clean. She clean. These women that do all this clean, they used to be maids. If I was a maid, I'm sure I would have a perfect house. Okay? Okay. So we're going to go to question number 2. Do people get suicide to prove something or get sympathy? No. I'm gonna get my little input on here. I'm gonna tell you why. I use my example. Okay, she was always doing things, saying things, being very unprofessional in the way she speaks to people, me in particular, trying to make me feel inferior, and I was all right when I had my service dog, Heidi. I had her for 6 years. I trained her myself. Okay? I trained service dogs. Yes, psychiatric service dogs. Okay? So she was a little dash hound, and you'll see her picture somewhere in this in my on my channel. But I never thought I would get depressed and all that. But when Heidi, she was a dash hound. She was 5, and when the disc in her back broke, and she, as a consequence, became paralyzed in her back legs. She could no longer perform those tasks that I need, for my mental illness. And before that, if I got depressed or too anxious or whatever, she would get me out of it. I'm not going to explain different techniques, but you can look them up. But I had her trained, and she instinctively knew when I was depressed what to do. If I had a panic attack, what to do. If I was just had it with her, had it with everybody, she was there. I would have never tried to attempt suicide if Heidi was here. Okay? I attempted suicide after I had to put Heidi to sleep. And you piled that on a dog that you loved and trained and was your assistance animal for 6 years. For 5 years. And then you get this covert narcissist, being wicked as always, and disrespectful, and unprofessional, and hateful, and mean, and you get that on top of the suicide. On top of the death of my dog, my service dog Heidi. And I couldn't anymore. The pills, they weren't appealing anymore. I lost Heidi. I could cope with it with Heidi, but with Heidi gone, her narcissistic actions and traits and behavior, that was the what they call it, the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm sorry, y'all. It's bringing back bad memories for me. So I had no one. Okay. No children, no husband, this or this. Okay. So I was not trying to get sympathy. I was not. I just reached the limit. I just got tired. You know when they say Fannie Lou Hamer, the famous black activist, said, "I am tired of being tired." That early that next morning, around 5 or 6, I'm not sure what it was, I got tired of being tired. I knew later on today she was gonna come, and she was gonna, and you know, I didn't clean up and stuff. I was still in grief, and I knew she was gonna come, and she was gonna. So I just said, "Fuck it, I'll just die." And I just couldn't take anymore. I could not take anymore. I have a very severe case of depression. It's very hard for doctors to treat me. So I saw some razors in the cabinet, and I remember some girls talking about cutting their wrists, and they were talking about, oh yeah, the ones that get sympathy, they cut theirs horizontal, and that's just the ones that's trying to get sympathy. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then they said, well, you know, the ones who really want to commit suicide, they do it like this. And this one's healing. Okay, so anyway, it was not for sympathy. I just wanted to get out of there. I wanted to get out of this world. I did not have my mother anymore. She was the one who, that's why I needed a service dog to go into my move. And I just wanted to be with my mother and father again. So I really didn't give a fuck. And I did write a letter, and I did blame the manager. By the time I got to the service coordinator, I had blood all over the letter, but it named her. It named that narcissistic manager as the trigger, as the number one trigger. My dog was a trigger. She was like 30%. This woman was 70% a trigger. And then you combine those, and you're already severely depressed. And you're one of those hard to treat. You have one of those hard to treat depressions. That's how things happen. So that's a lie. Okay, people don't do that for sympathy. They are tired. They get tired. They get tired of life, not having a life, or having toxic people in their life, and they can't escape because they don't have the funds to escape. Okay. And also the third one is the third one happens to be a lot of times family members. There are some people died because all the certain people in their family tried to commit suicide or committed suicide. You know, like talking about you know, Hemingway, the author, and his granddaughter Margot. Margot committed suicide. I'm sorry. Margot committed suicide. Her sister Marion didn't. One of the uncles committed suicide, and of course, Grandpa committed suicide. Grandpa Ernest Hemingway. So a lot of times it's suicidal. And I think in my case, it was one Well, my mom said it was one of her cousins who drove a bus in California, and he drove over the cliff. So that's the only one I know of. But black people, they don't talk about suicide like white people do. So he's the only one I know of in my family. Only other suicides I know of is the slow deaths. You know, drugs, alcohol, pills. The slow death suicides. And so those are some of the things that questions that people have. Okay, so we're going to talk about risk factors. Okay, risk factors. Those are the things I just talked about that contributed to your suicide ideation or attempt, all that triggers it. And for youth or adults, the greatest risk is depression. Okay. Feelings of hopelessness or rejection, breakup of a romantic relationship. Remember I told you the black Romeo and Juliet? Or major loss of income, job, home, self-esteem, and social network. Family history, we talked about that. History of trauma or abuse, if you've been abused, or if you have been in some type of crisis situation where you are PTSD, that falls into a risk factor. We talked about okay. We talked about the jobs and stuff. Okay, death of a close friend or family member, especially suicide. We just talked about. Clusters of suicide in a fairly short period of time. These can have a contagion influence. I talked about that too, okay? Problems at school, at work, or with the law. Okay, a history of authority, pills, or group gang members. History of impulsiveness, lack of fear, aggressive tendencies. Stress due to situations like a new school, new home, a new location. Chronic illness or pain. Okay, this is a good one. Say you're getting older and you're getting arthritis, fibromyalgia, diabetes, and all these things are not. They're wearing your body down, and you can't get your blood sugar under control, or you have chronic stress. Chronic fatigue syndrome, or severe muscular dystrophy, anything like that. That makes you prone to suicide. Okay, a sense of isolation, or feeling different from other people. That's mine, because I'm the most educated one here, and I have a vast amount of experience in almost every field in the behavioral and social sciences. Living with stigmas attached with help-seeking behavior. That's me again. Facing barriers to effective and affordable care. I got insurance. I got Medicare, so I don't have to worry about that. Concerns about sexual identity. A lot of times people they start out gay, and they have body dysmorphic disorder. That means that transgender people have a high rate too, especially when they're transgender teens, because they feel that they were born in the wrong sex, and they just feel uncomfortable. Society judging them, and all the stigma associated with that. And having access to lethal means. And we know what those are, the guns and all that. Okay, so we're going to talk about the warning signs. I'm going to show it to you. There. Okay. Warning signs. Feeling worthless. Feeling trapped. Alcohol and drug misuse, abuse. Giving away things. Some people give away their precious things. My most precious things are my Barbie dolls. I collect vintage Barbie dolls, but my mind wasn't on giving them. But I probably would give. I have given them away. Feeling like you don't belong. That's why I want to leave this apartment with these elderly and these disabled low functioning adults. Because they laugh at me because, you know, I'm not a maid, you know, a janitor. I'm not a spotless cleaner. I'm a scientific, behavioral scientific person. Okay. So, I feel like I don't belong here. And, my therapists are trying to get me out. Engaging in risky behaviors. A history of suicide. We'll talk about that. Feeling alone. A sense of hopelessness. No hope for the future. That was me. This is me that they're talking about. Aggressiveness and irritability. That was me. You get aggressive, irritable. Just get the fuck out my way. Leave me alone. Possessing lethal means. Feeling like a burden to others. And this happens a lot in families. I don't have a close family, so I don't have that burden. Dramatic changes in moods and behavior. And lastly, frequently talking about death. Okay. Okay. We're going to talk about what you can do. Okay. What can you do for someone you love one you think who's suicidal? You can do these things. Do not leave that person alone. Talk to that person. Try to cheer that person up. Try to engage that person into doing things they like to do. Because that's the first sign of depression. If you have a specific pleasure that you like, a hobby, and you just stop doing that, and you just get withdrawn and isolated, that does it. Remove any firearms, alcohol, drugs, or sharp objects that could be used as a suicide attempt. And I'm going to give you the suicide awareness number. Call the U.S. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And that's 1-800-273-8255. I'm going to put it up in a minute and y'all can see it. And take the person to an emergency room or seek help from a medical or mental health professional. Okay. This is a suicide prevention. Let me see if I could just turn this around. Okay. Okay, suicide. No, it's not doing right. Can you see it? I'm trying to get where you can see it.